Hi everybody. Today I'm really excited because we are making one of my favorite dishes, which is eggplant parmesan. Now before you scream and run for the hills at the thought of eating something with eggplant in it, just stay with me and try it, and I'm sure you're gonna love it. Now it's not hard to make, but it is a little bit time consuming. It'll take you about a total of an hour and a half, and there's 3 different steps that you need to do. We're going to first prepare the eggplant and get it sweating, which we'll do first, and then we will bread and bake, not fry, which is gonna make it healthier, our eggplant slices, and then we're going to assemble the whole dish with our other ingredients, which we'll get to, and then bake it. So you see, it's not hard, it's just a few steps. So the first thing is this recipe that we're doing will serve 6 people nicely. Some recipes will say that this is enough to serve 8, but to me, I think it's 6. So for that, you need an eggplant that is about 1.5 pounds. This is how I gauge it at the store, about 1.5 pounds. And I try to get one that's sort of consistent in shape, not the one that's really eggplant shaped, you know, wider at the bottom, so that you can have more even slices for stacking. So first thing we want to do for this, we want 18 slices. So this, I'm just going to cut off the ends. And then you just have to sort of eyeball it. You want your slices to be between 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch. I'm not really good at eyeballing things, so don't worry about it too much. Just try to end up with 18 slices. I didn't come up with 18 slices. Okay, well this is what you do when you come up with 17 slices instead of 18. We'll just space out the bottom row a little bit, I'll show you, but hopefully you'll do a little bit better than I did, but that's okay, it'll work. It'll still taste great. So to sweat the eggplant, and the reason you want to sweat the eggplant, which is just sprinkling salt on both sides, placing it in a colander, all of them, we'll just stack them in the colander with a plate underneath, and it's going to draw bitterness out of the eggplant, and it also makes them more tender. Some people will say it doesn't make a difference, but trust me, it does. I've tried it both ways, and you're going to want to take the time to do this. So you just take each slice, sprinkle with salt on both sides, sort of rub it in and set it in there. And just go through this, each one. And I'll show you what it looks like when we're all done. So they're all salted and just stacked in this colander, and you want to let them sit for 30 to 40 minutes at least. I usually get impatient and only let it go 30 minutes. In the meantime, we will get ready for our next step, which is going to be breading them and baking them. So while the eggplant slices are sweating, make sure to turn on your oven to 425, get that preheating. And to prepare for the breading, you just need 2 shallow dishes, whatever you have, 2 eggs beaten in 1 dish. And then one tip that I like to do to make this a little bit easier of a dish is to use Italian style breadcrumbs. So they're already seasoned, really quick and easy, ready to go. So 3/4 cup of those is all you need in another bowl. Okay, when these are done, we'll be back to the second step. Okay, so it's been about 40 minutes. I practiced my patience and waited a little bit longer than 30 minutes. And if you can see the liquid that's coming out of the eggplant. So they'll actually have beads of sweat on them from everything that is being drawn out of the eggplant. So the next step that you want to do is we want to rinse them. We want to get that salt off. Then we're going to just put them out on a dish towel and pat them dry to get them ready for dipping in our egg wash and breadcrumbs. And then you just want to pat them dry. Okay. And then remember, we've got our 2 eggs for our egg wash and our 3/4 cup of Italian seasoned breadcrumbs. The first thing I want to do is spread a little bit of olive oil on my baking sheet. This will just help them brown in the oven a little bit. All right, now we're just going to dip and bread each one and put it on our cooking sheet. Just press it in so the breadcrumbs really get in there. And just do this to all 17 since I mismeasured. You may be wondering why I keep mentioning 18 slices, and it's because in the dish I'm going to use, I want to have 3 layers, and so I just always figure 6 slices per layer is what fits nicely. What I'll end up doing is just cutting one of my bigger ones in half to make it fit. It'll be fine. Okay, so we've got our slices breaded and ready to go into the oven. We've got our oven preheated at 425. I'm going to cook them for 10 minutes each side, so 20 minutes total, and I'll flip them halfway through. So it's been 10 minutes, so we're going to flip our slices and cook them for another 10 minutes. And see how they browned a little bit on the other side where we had the olive oil. Now the bottoms will brown this time. Okay, and then back in the oven for 10 more minutes. So while the eggplant slices are finishing in the oven, we're going to just gather the rest of the ingredients that we need to assemble our eggplant parmesan before throwing it in the oven. So I've got 12 ounces of mozzarella cheese, and what I've done is I've made 6 slices so that it'll be pretty on the top. So 6 slices, and the rest of it I've grated, and it usually gives you right about 2 cups, which is perfect. 1.5 cups of finely grated Parmesan cheese. So we've got mozzarella cheese and Parmesan cheese. And then to make things easier and a little bit quicker, one thing I do is I buy a jar of my favorite marinara sauce, like a 24, 25 ounce jar. I like Newman's marinara. Put it in a bowl, and the only spice I add to all of this is 1/2 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. So I'm just going to stir that in. And before we assemble all of this, I'm just going to zap this in the microwave for about 2 minutes just to heat it up, so we're not adding something cold to our already hot eggplant slices. So I've got that ready. And then lastly, I've got 6 fresh basil leaves that I just want to julienne, which is just cutting something into thin ribbon shape. So I just roll them all together and slice them. Okay, and then that's everything that we need to assemble our dish. So as soon as those eggplant slices are done, we'll put everything together. Okay, so our eggplant slices are done, and I've turned the oven down to 350 degrees. These aren't going to be as brown and crispy as if you had fried them, but this is a lot more healthy. And I like it better because if I have any leftovers and I heat them up the next day, if I fried them, it's very greasy, and with this, it isn't. So that's a good tip too. Now we're gonna have 3 layers, so I'm just dividing everything in thirds. So I'm gonna start with, the nice thing about this jar of salsa is that it's right about 2 cups. So I'm gonna put 1/2 cup on the bottom and then 1/2 cup between each layer, so it works out perfectly. So start with 1/2 cup of sauce on the bottom of your pan. This particular dish is about 11 by 7, seems to work perfectly. Now remember, since I only had 17 slices, I'm gonna pick my biggest one and cut it in half, just so I have an even 6 for each layer. And now you just kind of mix and match the sizes so you can fit 6. And I'm gonna top it with 1 cup of mozzarella cheese, half a cup of the Parmesan cheese, and then 1/3 of the basil leaves. And then after the basil leaves, we're gonna start our second layer, starting with a half a cup of the sauce again. 6 more slices. One cup of mozzarella, which will be the rest of this, because for the top layer, we're going to put the slices on the top. It's a lot of cheese, but I love cheese. Half a cup of Parmesan. Another third of the basil leaves. And then we start again, half a cup of the marinara sauce, which leaves us another half a cup that we're gonna put over the top. So I've got my last layer of eggplant slices, and this time I'm going to do it in a little bit different order. Because I want the cheese to sort of brown on top, I'm gonna put it last. So I'm gonna start this time with the marinara sauce. I'm just gonna spread that to make sure it covers all of the slices. Then I'm gonna top it with my 6 slices of mozzarella. It'll just make a really nice layer of cheese that will get all brown and bubbly. My Parmesan. And lastly, the last bit of basil. Now we're going to bake this uncovered in our 350-degree oven for about 35 minutes. Okay, so we've taken it out of the oven after 35 minutes and we've let it rest for about 5 minutes. You need to do that before cutting into it or the cheese is just gonna ooze out everywhere. But this is what it should look like. And I think that this is the perfect size. This will serve 6 people for a main dish. That's why I like using this pan. All right, I'm gonna cut myself a slice, show you what it looks like inside and give it a taste. So good. I'm always so glad when I've taken the time to make this. It's really good. It has that little bit of crisp from the breadcrumbs, has all that melty, oozy cheese. You can taste the peppers and the marinara sauce. I wouldn't leave that out. It gives it a nice zing. So even though it seems like a lot of steps, you saw that none of them were difficult, just takes a little bit of time, and I think that you'll find it was well worth it. So I hope you'll give it a try, and I'll see you next time.